Nice and short, really, because two of the finalists tonight have been well introduced. But just very quickly, this particular category, interesting category because it's not categorised around education or government or the other different sectors where open source is playing such a big part. So thinking about that with the judges. The biggest impact to New Zealand, how do we actually start measuring subjective notions around impact and started to look at project maturity, the critical mass perhaps, the community building around it, those types of things and evidence of impact where it's distinctly New Zealand led, and a very tricky category to judge. And when looking at that, and we all choose to live in New Zealand, and New Zealand's got, that tyranny of distance which is fast being demolished. And partly, that's one thing that technology is doing very well. But the other big challenge for New Zealand is around it's such a small economy, and so aggregation of capital around software innovation is a big challenge. Not so much of a challenge around aggregation of ideas, and we can compete on a level playing field, and some would argue, we can extremely strongly compete on that because it's a beautiful petri dish sized economy here. So open source levels the playing field for us. It's the perfect technology paradigm for this country, and we don't have to go to the market in a meek way, or even having to fight that challenge for capital. We can lead the world in the strength of our ideas. So it was a pleasure to lead the judging panel around this particular category. It was quite a few different nominations in it. Keti hasn't been mentioned tonight. Keti is a fantastic project and really starts to change the way that collaboration works. Now, collaboration software is around, but this particular project has all the hallmarks of good collaboration software that can change the world and continue to grow. You can upload the whole gamut of files, and you can collaborate around that. And that's pretty close to my heart because I'm ex-media a good decade ago, and this sort of stuff is really going to change the world around citizen journalism, how communities come together, how we relate to each other. So hats off to Keti. And you'll notice that I'm not reading actually from any notes because I need a good Catalyst person to blow up, IT consultant to put it up to size 16 font or something. Not capable myself. I'll be okay for a few seconds, thanks mate. And very, very good project. I'd better read these ones out because they're numbers, and this is for SilverStripe. SilverStripe's already been mentioned tonight, but I just want to mention some of the numbers here because numbers tell a really important story around SilverStripe. I think Don already mentioned the number of downloads. It's over 325,000 downloads, which is just phenomenal. There's over 5,000 members in the forum, writing over 50,000 posts. There's 100 companies globally have joined their partnership network. There's 1,200 websites in their community showcase, and it's translated into 65 different languages. Now, the reason why these numbers are important is because the critical challenge in any open source project is to hit this magical notion which nobody actually quite knows that you've met it until you look at it in hindsight. but that notion of critical mass, and that's where the project starts to accelerate away and be sustainable in its own right, and you know that you've got a business model around it, and SilverStripe's clearly there. So worthy nomination there. The R projects also, Nat's introduced the R project really well. I've had the pleasure to sit beside Ross tonight and meet him for the first time. He shared with me that he's about to make the R project redundant with the next generation, and very committed to that. The amazing power of what that's already done, it makes it exciting as to what's in his mind for what's coming up. Been around for 10 years, so it's not a new project, but it's phenomenal what that has achieved as New Zealand thinking, changing the world with huge data sets that we can't comprehend, and that this is the language that can make sense of it. So fantastic.
The envelope.
And the winner is SilverStripe CMS.
I really honestly thought R was going to win. Round of applause to R. Okay. Has anybody here read Makers by Cory Doctorow?
Yes.
Right? Yeah? This is a fascinating book because it talks about the future of, in many ways, open source. And Bronwyn, your stuff is in the book quite directly. It's incredible, and it's set in the future just a few years, and Cory Doctorow does his thing and describes a future where there's a lot of issues around open source and how it pervades into society from a copyright standpoint, from a money standpoint, and from a community standpoint. I think it's one of those books that you can look at and kind of see just a little bit of the road ahead about what's going to happen with open source, particularly around community. There's a lot that I can talk about around community, and most of it is quite humbling, but there's one thing in particular I wanted to mention, and that is around the companies out there around the planet who are involved in the SilverStripe open source ecosystem. As mentioned, you know, we've got a number of companies that are out there building websites for their clients based on the open source SilverStripe project, and they're also contributing back. They're contributing back in patches and ideas and forum contributions and things like that. So it really is a really awesome ecosystem. We've got SilverStripe Australia, we've got a number of partners around the planet, 14, and we've got over 150 companies who are members of our developer network. These are companies that are distributed all across the planet. They're all creating commercial sites for people based on the SilverStripe open source project, and they're also contributing back to the open source project. It's a wonderful, wonderful ecosystem. So I'd just like to give a particular shout out to those entities who are part of the SilverStripe community. And the last person I want to thank who couldn't be here tonight is Sam Monet. Sam Monet is the CTO of SilverStripe, and he pretty much architected the whole thing. It's brilliant. I come from a traditional software background in Silicon Valley, and I look at the architecture work that Sam did on the SilverStripe open source product, and it's phenomenal. I'm amazed every time I look at the code. So I just want to give a particular shout out to Sam, who's in Zurich right now doing some consulting for this really awesome university. Doing some, what are they doing? They're doing, it's like a, yes, a portal for utility companies in Zurich. So that's where Sam is tonight. He couldn't be with us. So thank you, Sam. Thank you, Sam. And again, thanks to everybody who's touched any SilverStripe code. You've made a lot of people really happy, and there's a lot of people around the world who are getting the benefit of the SilverStripe open source project. Thank you.